Hello, everyone. Welcome to Monday. Hope you had a good weekend.
Oh God, well, if you can consider unloading loads of crap from a basement, getting ready to throw it out, then my weekend was really fun.
Well, that's great. Good to hear that.
In there, it's nice, cleansing.
So yeah, not really, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I know it's like the temptation on things like that is always just to just hire a junk company and just tell them all to take it and just go away for the weekend and come back and just have it be gone.
Yes, but the problem is if you throw out the wrong things,
right,
we'll have a stroke. So
I know.
It'll be scarring.
I'm so close to just telling people to just come and just empty out certain parts of our house, but
1-800 get a truck.
I know we collect way too many things here. But anyway, and that's mostly on me, honestly.
The whole world does.
It's me.
Go ahead,
There's no question about it.
All right, here's the pre-show. So I saw today the number one recruit in the country, high school recruit going to college basketball.
Mm-hmm.
They had decided to do a little LeBron show on ESPN. I only know because I turn on SportsCenter for a minute, and they're asking him questions, stalling. And, what is the kid? 17, going to be 18, and after 3 or 4 questions, they're like, well, where are you going to go this year? We know it's like one of 7 schools. And he's like, I'm going to, and I'm not going to say the school because I'm not giving him any credit. And after he says the school, there's 3 or 4 people that start clapping. He gets up, he unzips his hoodie, and he's got a shirt that says the name of the school with his likeness on it. And my issue is, this is college basketball.
Right.
Do they not have enough trouble with the likeness thing already? What are they doing with that shirt? Who's selling it? Who's making money on it? Do they not have enough of these issues to now create even more issues? I didn't like the way the whole thing was run.
Well, I mean, he could have gone to a T-shirt shop.
No. This was branded by the school. You could see it.
Well, type in the private chat where he went to because I have no idea.
That's fine. But just what I'm saying is now that the likeness is on the shirt, clearly the player can't sell it and make money because they're not allowed to make money yet. So what happens to this shirt?
I don't know. Does it seem like it was? I mean, we live in a world where anybody can make a T-shirt really easily too. So it's like one of those things that you just wonder, if it's.
He just did it on SportsCenter, and it has the logo of the school. So I imagine, you can't just do that without a problem from a school.
Yeah, I guess if you're on SportsCenter, you're probably.
Yeah,
that's true. I agree with you on that. Yep. Yeah. I mean, I've made. After getting the official licensing from everybody involved, I've made jerseys myself. So shirts myself.
Yeah, but this was planned. This was premeditated. Hey, we're going to have it on SportsCenter. We're going to have 5 minutes carved out here so we can make a big splash here. And you know what? How about the kid plays first and we see if he's any good before he decides he's this big superstar already and has his likeness on his own shirt before he's even been at the school to play basketball. This is where we're going in the world, and I don't like it.
By the way, I'm still waiting on my Hockey Buzz hoodie.
I know.
I've never seen one. Even a hat, nothing. We did get the hockey jerseys that time. They were good.
Got those. Yep. We'll see.
That was 7 years ago.
I know. How the time has flown, man. All right, let's start over. Here we go. I will get you guys something. Sure. All right, here we go. Hello, Hockey World. It's Monday, April 19th, 2021.
I'm Michael Agello, and the weather forecast in Buffalo is for snow on Thursday.
Oh, man.
I'm Russ Cohen, and I really don't care.
You're in Buffalo.
And I'm Eckler, and you're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world, and got a lot of different little things to talk about today that I've been looking at. But the first thing I just saw right before the show, which was interesting, a tweet put out by Igor Larionov. Did you guys see this?
No, Larry, his son. His son
put it out?
Yes, that was Igor Larionov 2.
Igor Larionov 2. Okay, I apologize. But anyway, it was an interesting comment. Anyway, that he said that the bottom 3 teams of the NHL should be relegated every year. What would that do? How would that change things? And it is an interesting
relegated to the AHL, he said, yeah.
Yeah, relegated to the AHL. I mean, obviously this doesn't work the way things are set up now, because the AHL is not, the AHL is is run by NHL teams.
Right.
But it is an interesting concept to like sit back and say, okay, because this is something that happens in soccer all the time in Europe. And it's and it does definitely keep teams interested. It doesn't allow teams to tank because obviously you're going to go relegated to the league.
Yeah.
And
that's what they do in like World Juniors and stuff too.
Right.
They do that. They do this in World Juniors. I didn't know they did.
Yeah.
Because the tournament is what 10 teams cuts down.
Yeah, Finland almost got relegated.
World Junior. World Junior.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Gotcha. Yes, they do. They get relegated too, and that's a big deal. Obviously, yeah. Finland almost getting relegated. That's a huge. It
was a massive deal. They had to win a game or they'd be relegated. That's how they switched coaches. They did everything to make sure they didn't get relegated. But my only thing here, Ek, is if we're going to go under the guise that the AHL is a developmental league, you can't do it because now you're going to have pros. Like the other guys are pros, but now you're going to have like some of the best pros going up against, 20-year-olds in some case, and then 34-year-olds that are literally, past their prime.
I mean, that model of the English Premier League, the problem is that those second division teams are independent of the teams in the EPL, whereas the AHL teams are affiliated and they have prospects and players that are
It couldn't work the way things are set up right now.
I'd be all for it if it wasn't affiliated and it wasn't a developmental league. Then I think it would be a great idea.
I mean, but I think where it falls apart is in television rights and things like that. Because because it says, so if you have a bad team that's like, say, in New York or something like that,
right?
The NHL is not going to want that team relegated. So it'll never happen in American pro sports, I don't think.
I have another place where it fails, and that's the draft. Because
the draft too. Well, that's because tanking and all that. Yeah.
Well, no, not the tanking aspect, but okay. Say for example, the bottom three teams this year are Detroit, Buffalo, and Ottawa.
Right.
They're going to get the first pick in the draft, but the first pick will be for a relegated team. And do you think that the Power or Berniers are going to want to go to the AHL as 18-year-olds instead of playing in the NHL? Well, that's what they're going to have to do because the team has been relegated. So you'd have to change the structure of the draft completely to enable that, and I don't think that will ever happen either.
Yeah, I mean it does, and some people are saying in the chat room, like somebody said that Grand Rapids is better than Detroit. They're not.
No,
they're really not. And the reality is, and I know sometimes you'll see like the an AHL team beat an NHL team in the preseason if they play each other and stuff like that.
Yeah, like the Phantoms played that year on the Spectrum. They played the Flyers, and you could see even the Flyers, like not full lineup, was going to kill them.
Well,
yeah, it's very. I mean, and even this year, the Phantoms are people told me this. I just got a text, of course, about the Flyers would lose to the Phantoms.
No,
and no, they wouldn't. I mean, the Phantoms are a good playoff team this year for sure. They're doing well, but they would not lose to the Phantoms. I mean, there is a difference here. There's a reason that these guys are in the NHL.
I can only think of one example where the AHL team was better than the parent team, and that was the 2016 Toronto Marlies were better than the last place Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, the Leafs had Kadri and they had Riley, but the leading scorer on the team, I believe, was P.A. Parento. And the only place where the Leafs were better than the Marlies was goaltending, which was, I think, Bernier and Reimer as opposed to Garrett Sparks. But the rest of the, Connor Brown, Nylander, Hyman, all those guys who were with the Marlies, they were better than the NHL team.
But do you really think they would have beaten them?
Yes.
I don't think so.
That NHL team was terrible. And the thing is,
but it doesn't matter.
They're terrible against NHL teams.
They're terrible against NHL teams, exactly.
No.
And those guys, the pride involved in that. If it's an actual game, the preseason
it doesn't matter about the stats, Mike. What Ek is saying is true. You can have all the young hotshots you want, and this parent team is not going to want to be embarrassed.
No, they're not going to be embarrassed. And guys with experience do matter. I mean, it's just there's the best young players can get taken down so quickly by an experienced guy. Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, we've seen it before, and it's nuts.
They won't want to be embarrassed, but I'll just give you a brief proof here. After the trade deadline, all those players, Brown, Hyman, Nylander, were all called up to the Leafs, and from the middle of March, they were a 500 team. They were nowhere close to 500 before that. So those guys improved at the NHL level, proved that they were better.
Well, I'll give you that. I'll give you that AHL teams can have lines that can play in the NHL. Like you could have an AHL team that has a line that could play in the NHL for sure, and you're talking about like 3 or 4 guys like that. Yeah, that line might
the
be better
Sabres did that when year after the lockout.
Right, like maybe that line
was
better.
Go to the NHL. That's true.
Yeah, maybe that line was better than the 4th line on the Maple Leafs that year. And you could sit there and argue that. But would they, if you brought them up, they would have better success against NHL teams, perhaps. But playing against one team against the other, it's different.
Maybe the Leafs could have used a couple of these players last night. Nylander excluded since he had a goal.
Well, can we talk about that for a second?
I want to get to that. Yeah, I definitely want to get to that. But I want to get to that. We're going to tease that out a little bit, okay? Because I want to do a couple more quick things before we get into that real fast, because it was an interesting game, the Vancouver game. But I wanted to talk about Patrick Marleau for a second, because obviously tonight he sets a record for the most games played by a player in the NHL, which is not an insignificant thing. Like that's
no, I mean, it won't get him in the Hall of Fame, but it's an amazing thing.
So that is one of the things I'm interested in. Do you think that he's not a Hall of Fame player?
I don't think he's a Hall of Famer, no. I never have.
This record might, Russ, because it's like
why?
I mean, he's on the edge right now. I mean, he's had some really good seasons. He has never won anything for sure, but he's also had really good tournaments with Team Canada.
It's a pure.
Remember, Hockey Hall of Fame is the Hockey Hall of Fame. I don't remember much about his junior career, but that people like they take that into account. Like Lindros's junior career was taken into account. Like there's different things that are taken into account.
Well, Lindros still had. If you take the best 8 Lindros years and you put him up against the best 8 Marleau years, it's not even close.
No, I agree with that 100%. But I think that there's. I mean, he was a better. He wasn't just a role player. Like he was a top line player. For the San Jose Sharks for many years, and a Sharks team that often finished in the top towards the top of the league. So, I mean, he had bad playoffs for sure, and that's what kind of how I think.
That's another issue.
A lot of people will think of him that way, but his numbers, his points and everything like that, they're not terrible. And just the fact he's played more games than anybody else in the NHL, I think, gets him in.
He's a pure compiler. That's what he is. Now, has he been a really good to great player? Yes. He made a Stanley Cup final. He's won an Olympic gold medal. No, he's not a Hall of Famer. He's a compiler. No, he's
and he's played in games of like the composed, not controlled. A total of 34% of all NHLers that have ever played have been connected to him, like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. They've come out with that. That's cool. That kind of stuff is cool, but it doesn't get you in the Hall of Fame.
That is cool.
The thing that might get him over is the consecutive game streak. And he, I think, is still behind Jarvis and one other player for consecutive games. Even though he's been traded, he's maintained that streak, and he's maintained it with San Jose. Now, I don't
but I think if we look at that again, Mike, with the voters – there was moments it should not have been extended. It was only extended as a courtesy to him because nobody felt like being the bad guy and breaking it. But there were times where he should have had it broken.
It didn't get Jarvis in the Hall of Fame, and Jarvis won Stanley Cups with Montreal, but Jarvis was never a big scorer.
No, he was a great face-off guy.
Actually, the funny Yandel is ahead of him. So it's
Yandel's not getting in the Hall of Fame.
Right. It's Jarvis at 964, Gary Younger at 914. Yandel will be second overall in 3 games. Marleau is at 898, and Phil Kessel is at 889. So apparently hot dogs do help you.
He's got almost 600 goals and 600 assists, That's there aren't that many players with those kind of numbers. I mean, and granted, you can sit there and say it's because he played 1,700 games, and I get that, but there's something about like being able to play 1,700 games that I think that has to put you in the Hall of Fame. And you guys know that I am not the big Marleau fan. Like I am not really like he's not one of my favorite guys, not one of my favorite people. But even I hate to say that because he's had run-ins with like his run-ins with Ryan Gardner back in the day that were really unprofessional, I thought, but I sit there and say he's like absolutely one of the he's the best. Is he the best Shark that ever played? I think he probably is.
Yes, sure. But I mean, what does that mean?
Joe Thornton is
no, I don't think so. I think he's not better than Joe Thornton.
That's the big question, right? So
Joe Thornton won a Hart Trophy. We did Patrick Marleau.
All right, so here's a good example. Just 2 guys. So Dino Ciccarelli is ahead of Marleau points wise, with and he played in 1,232 games rather than 1,767. Vinny Danfus is next, who played in 1,378 games instead of 1,767. Bernie Nichols is next, and he's played in 1,100 games. So you can see there's a difference of like 400 or 500 games that he played to get the same points as these other guys. You can't put him in.
And it took Cicerelli like 15 years to get in the Hall of Fame.
Well, he had other issues. Yeah.
Yes, I know. And Bernie Nichols and Danfus are still not in.
No.
I like this. I actually kind of agree with this statement by Peterson.
What a load of crap.
No, why? Go ahead.
Oh, okay. First of all,
the statement, by the way, if you're listening to this podcast, was that if Chelios is a Hall of Famer, because a lot of people do listen, we should remember that.
I am not a Chelios
Hall of Famer.
I don't like his personality. I thought he was a cheap player, but yes, the latter half of his career, he was a compiler, especially with Detroit, lasting to age 47. But the early part of his career, he won Stanley Cups. It was arguably the best defenseman in the NHL. I don't think, as much as I respect and like Patrick Marleau, nobody has ever thought he was the best winger in the NHL.
Right.
Chelios might, you can make a case for Chelios right now, and it's not a argument that people will go into because it's tough to quantify the abilities of a defenseman as opposed to a forward. But you can make a valid argument that Chris Chelios is the greatest American player that's played in the NHL history.
Right. Like, here's a good example. Kevin Allen, when I went over his house, we talked about this exact thing. We both were in agreement that it will be Patrick Kane as far as the greatest American of all time.
Yeah.
But we also talked about the Chelios versus Leach thing because there's people that are on the Leach side, people on the Chelios side. I get why people think that Chelios is a little bit better than Leach, and it's only because he's a little bit better defender, but Leach obviously is a lot better offensively. Yeah. But again, it wasn't like a slam dunk. Even Kevin was like, it's a good argument for both.
Yeah.
And and so it's not, so I can't use Chelios as if he's in. Chelios was at the top of the food chain.
Yeah.
He did things on the ice that gave teams a lot of confidence,
right.
And he did a lot for teammates as far as making them better. And so do I like his personality? No. But otherwise, was he a great player? Yes.
And Chelios was never as good offensively as Leach was, but
not even close.
He was pretty good in his prime.
Yes.
And at the end of his career, he was basically a do-no-harm, stay-at-home defenseman. And he could do that until his 40s.
Yeah, 45, I think.
47, I think.
47.
Well, his big – so Marleau's big years were, in like 05, 06, put up 86 points, in 82 games. That was the most points he ever had. 09, 10, 83 points in 82 games. And then again had like a rebirth in 70 – in 13-14 where he had 70 points. And then after that, he was definitely, his points, fell into the 40s, right?
Yeah, these are not the ordinary numbers. They're just, like Mike said, he really is a true compiler. Like, when you're 400 or 500 games more than the next guy in points, you've compiled to get those same points and pass them. That's the exact reason.
Put his career up against Mike Gartner, and Gartner's is better.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, I don't know about that.
Please, come on.
All right,
I'll give you proof. Okay, Marleau has scored 40 goals once. Gartner has scored 40 goals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, and he scored 50 once. Marleau never
definitely not the goal scorer. Yeah.
I
think it's.
And the length of their careers, Gartner was almost 20 years. Marleau has been over 20 years. Marleau, in terms of, his ability to play into his 40s, I'm not disrespecting that. I think.
Well, me neither. He's a terrific player.
He was a very good player with the Leafs.
It's not the Hall of very good.
Yeah, he was a very good player for the Leafs the first year. Mm-hmm. Second year, he was trailing off, and they had to trade a first-round pick to get rid of his contract. That's how much he had dropped off.
Like he doesn't even have Adam Oates numbers. Adam Oates has great numbers.
Well, yeah,
he's got nothing like that.
Numbers. You were talking. And I guess
got 1,335 points Marlowe will never reach that, no matter how many games
No,
he
Oates was
played.
dynamic. Oates was a statistic guy. He just picked up
No,
stats.
but I'm giving you Gardner.
Played with Brett Hall
Gardner's way
forever. I
ahead
mean,
of him.
Oates put up numbers with big players. Marlowe didn't always have that kind of talent around him either.
Okay, but Gardner's way past him. How do you explain
Gardner
that?
had better talent. I mean, I think Gardner had better talent around him most of the time. I honestly think it was.
I don't think Gardner ever had a center as prolific as Thornton, and Marlowe got Thornton. I think what was the trade 05 maybe 04.
Yeah, but watching the Sharks all the time, they were sort of like they played together, not all the time. I mean, it was the same kind of thing, like an Edmonton thing where you didn't want to put them together all the time, so you had to keep them. You separated them a lot.
I mean, Pierre Turgeon kills him in points. I get the era thing, and he's not in. So
yeah, no, I mean, there's an argument to be made. I get it. I just think that it's hard to say that the greatest, or the guy who's played more games in the NHL than anybody else is not in the Hall of Fame. That's kind of a strange thing to say because you would go with anybody who leads any statistic. I mean, it is a statistical thing as well. All right, but I get the argument. I'm just making the other side of it. I get the argument.
It's different than baseball. I mean, you can't. The difference between him and Cal Ripken is huge, and that's so you if you're trying to equate it to baseball, you can't even do it.
No, you can't. You definitely can't. All right, let's talk about Toronto, Vancouver for a little bit. Mm-hmm. Mike, thoughts? Go ahead. You start.
Well, okay. The funny thing is, and I saw a lot of, of course, David Ayers references on social media, which I thought was laughable because
not by me.
No, I didn't say you, Russ. But I thought it was laughable because last time I looked, Braden Holtby is a Stanley Cup winning goaltender.
Yeah.
And he played great last night. He made, I think it was 39 saves. So a lot of the situation in terms of Vancouver winning that game, in spite of being off for 3 weeks, in spite of having a lot of players that were limited because of just recovering from COVID. When you have a hot goaltender, a team that is not as good as the other team can win a game. We know that. The Leafs had a ton of opportunities, including a 5-minute power play that they finally scored on with like 19 seconds left. But Holtby, I mean, it was 2-0, and the Leafs gave up a goal really quickly right after that. Kept the game close. The Canucks tied it, almost won it in regulation, then won it in overtime, and everybody is sort of bashing the Leafs right now for sort of being chokers or not taking advantage of the situation. And I'm like, okay, again, a hot goaltender equals things out. The Leafs did not get great goaltending from Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell admitted it himself. The thing that was concerning to me, Russ, is that how goaltenders, there's a book on goaltenders.
Yes.
And sometimes, somebody who's a backup, it's like somebody who's a starting pitcher that goes through the league once and, they're just dominating teams with their stuff. And then when they see them a second time, they've learned something about them. Now, Campbell's been in the league a few years. He played over 30 games with Los Angeles, but he was always the backup. He was always the number 2. They weren't seeing him with regularity. And on 2 goals, the opening goal by Horvat and the winning goal in overtime by Horvat, he beat Campbell short side both times.
Yeah, there's no question that's probably some video work. I didn't watch this game. I watched a few others, but I did see the rollover save that Holtby made. That looked like vintage Holtby. So, I mean, he is capable of any night.
He definitely showed up last night.
It looked like a Hasek save. Really.
Yeah. I mean, so anybody could show up
and
beat a team. I also think, look, it's not completely shocking that out of the gate they were going to play their best hockey game. It's over time that we worry about their guys losing their legs and
for sure
and that. But this game they've been waiting, they've been chopping at the bit. So I don't think I'm not going to blame the Leafs for this one.
No, I think this is an adrenaline game a little bit.
Yeah,
there's no question. Yeah, I agree with everything Russ said just there. I do think I don't know why people just like to pick on the Leafs right now. In this situation here, like it's the game Toronto really didn't even want to play.
It's fashionable act that, but
no, it's always that's true. What you always pick on the top guy, whoever's on the top league, always gets.
But honestly, the most impactful story of the night was the injury to Zach Hyman, and Alex Edler, I keep hearing, well, Alex Edler is not a cheap player.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but Ack and Russ, he is a cheap player. Do you remember what he did in the World Championships to Eric Stahl? He cooked Eric Stahl's knee and he had to have surgery. This was the same thing.
I forgot about that, but I never watched the World Championships. To be fair,
neither did I, but I remember the injury.
Yeah,
and I've seen I've seen highlights of it. But I mean, this is a potential. If we don't know yet. I mean, I'm sort of holding off on my blog right now to wait for the information on Hyman because it's such an important thing.
And he's had a knee surgery already, didn't he?
It was that knee. He had ACL surgery. Remember, he hurt his knee in the Bruins series in 2019. Right. Looking at the video, it didn't look like it was going to be. It was something serious in the sense that the knee the contact was more like above the knee, not knee on knee, and there was no hyperextension. But this is the same knee he had the ACL tear on. So there's no way to know, and we haven't heard anything from the Leafs. But I'll just say this: if Zach Hyman is out for the year, the Leafs are not getting out of the North Division. That's how important he is to that.
Wow.
He really is. He leads them in ice time. He kills penalties. He plays on the power play. He's a matchup defender against other teams' number one lines. He's that important. So
he is that important. He's very important. But they got to be able to. Every team has something like this that happens. They got to be able. They got to be able.
So I just saw it because I didn't get to watch it. The way I always grade these knee-to-knee hits is on the Marchment scale because Brian Marchment was the king of it, and that was a 9 out of 10. That's how dirty that was.
Yeah. And
his leg was way out there for a while.
Edler was stuck out there for about 2.5 minutes, and he was desperate to get off the ice. Yeah. So he was looking to knock somebody down so he can
get off the ice.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, this has to be a major suspension, I think.
I mean, this has to be a 5-game suspension just because a guy could not only lose a season, but you could lose a career over that.
But this is the thing that is laughable is the fact that Vancouver is not going to make the playoffs. So the only thing that
but nobody's saying that right now, Mike. That's the funny thing. They're all saying, well, they could, and you can't say they can't. I know, but this is right now. This is the argument. They picked up X argument from the other day.
And I will say this, the idea here. Okay, go ahead, Mike.
No, go ahead.
No, just go.
What's that? What do you mean X argument? I was checking something else out. What do you mean?
No, you were basically saying
the mathematical. They're still alive.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely, yeah.
Yes, argument.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's no question they're still alive. Yeah.
They are. It is just a reality. By the way, Rangers catching up.
Who are they catching?
Penguins.
The Bruins won yesterday.
They're catching the Penguins. The Penguins. This is what I said all along. I've been saying since the very beginning of time. Penguins keep losing.
How many points are they behind the Penguins? 9?
9 points behind the Penguins. Penguins keep losing all the time. They play each other 3 times. That's 3 games. If they take those 3 games, that's 6 more points. The Rangers are actually.
Let's discuss math for a minute. This is the best the Rangers have played all year, and now the Penguins are going through a little bit of a lull. If the Penguins just get a couple of games to overtime and they get a point here and a point there, the Rangers can't catch them. The Bruins might be in first place. The Islanders may be in third place, but the Rangers aren't catching any of them.
We'll see.
Okay.
I'm not saying again. You guys always have this weird thing. I'm not saying again.
Weird. It's weird.
You're not logically correct, or that the likelihood of what you're saying isn't true. The reality is they're not done. I mean, the Rangers are just not done. They are. The way when you look at how they're playing, and then you watch the Penguins, and I know the Penguins were playing really well before this streak. I get that. I do. But at the same time, when you look at the Penguins, like they watch them play against the Flyers, very average team. Then you watch them play against, they get beaten up by Buffalo yesterday. It's like there are things happening now in Pittsburgh. And I am not anti-Penguins. I have covered the Penguins and Stanley Cup runs have been incredibly glowing towards the Penguins. They are a fun team to cover when they're at their best. They're a fun team. But there is a reality to the situation that has to be addressed, that it's not likely. But it wasn't likely, what that year that Ottawa made the playoffs with the Hamburglar, or the year that Columbus made the playoffs coming back. There are things that aren't likely that happen. This one has that possibility.
Okay, well, I'm going to give you one little thing that breaks off a little bit of the veneer of this crude Rangers run, which it is. And look, Kravtsov got his first goal, terrific goal after a nice defensive play. He goes back door, he gets one. Lafreniere scores one of the best skill goals he's scored all year on a backhand, and then gets knocked into the net. Now, if he ends up with like 12 goals, that would be a pretty good year. He's got 8. Yeah. Those things are going right. I have even taken the heat off of David Quinn because I think he's figured it out. The problem is when you get a quote from Alexander Georgiev yesterday that said in between periods they had to pop his knee back in. Yeah. There's things like that are going to derail the Rangers because Keith Kincaid ain't getting the Rangers there, and Shesterkin can't play every game. So they're not getting there, Rick.
Chances are very unlikely that they get there.
And,
I'm with you. The impossibility is different. It's just different.
The Penguins are 6-3-1 in their last 10 games.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
No, they are. That is exactly 100%.
But you're acting like they're a sinking ship at 6-3-1.
This is not the 18-wheeler going off the cliff.
I've watched them play a lot, okay? And I've watched them play even in those games that they were getting those, and they got those points. Tons of those points against New Jersey, okay? Like there were like at least
the Rangers
just beat I think they played New Jersey 4 times in there.
The Rangers just beat the New Jersey Devils 4 times to set an NHL record for beating a team 4 times consecutively in an NHL season.
Let me ask you:
what about those points?
Do you think
those are real too?
Do you think the Rangers can catch the New York Islanders?
No.
Okay, let me just illustrate this argument here. The Pittsburgh Penguins in 45 games are 28-14-3, 59 points. The Islanders in 45 games are 28-13-4. 60 points. They have exactly the same record. They're 1 point ahead. If they can catch Pittsburgh, they can catch the Islanders.
No, that's simply you're accusing me of just going off of math with this. But then you're going off. I mean, when you watch the Penguins and the Islanders play, there's no two ways about it. That the fact of the matter is that
I don't know. The Islanders didn't play particularly great against the Flyers.
No, they didn't. But the Flyers have played the Islanders. The Flyers have played the Islanders tough this year. But the reality is, when you watch those teams play, the Islanders are a much more complete team. There's no two ways about it.
Sorokin played a great game. I'm surprised you haven't mentioned that.
Can I just say one thing?
I didn't have to because it's obvious. But the whole thing is like, but to me, like the situation is when you watch the Penguins are 6-2 against the Islanders. They are right. That's true, Mike. I agree with you 100%. They're done with the Islanders. They wish they had more games with the Islanders. If they did, they might have a better shot. You have to look at who the Penguins have to play the rest of the way. The reality is that there are troubles there, and I'm not saying that it's going to happen. I'm just saying it could happen.
And troubles in real estate. Can I just from the Music Man?
Can I just say that that Islanders Philadelphia? I watched about a period of that game, and that's 45 minutes of my life that I'll never get back.
I watched longer, and I fully agree with you.
Dreadful.
It was look. Everything they did for Oscar Lindblom was tremendous. I feel bad that I wasn't there, but I hurt my arm yesterday, so I didn't show up. And it was great to see that, and the fact that he was almost in tears. That part made me extremely happy. The game was extremely boring.
Yes, I agree with that.
And then Sorokin made some amazing saves. Like the Islanders had so little offense in that game. Even Pierre Maguire had to rip them for it, and it's hard for him to do that.
No, okay, I don't disagree. No, listen again. Boston's playing a lot better, so that's why I'm not going to say they're going to catch Boston.
They might win the division now.
You can see it in Boston.
Yeah,
I do watch the Penguins. Oh my gosh! Just when you watch there is I mean it's so funny here to hear Mike like complain about the Edmonton Oilers when the Penguins are the same exact thing.
I mean, no.
Okay, please. This is
who's better defensively, the Penguins or the Oilers?
The Penguins.
Nope.
No, I think they're the same, but I think Jerry's better than any goalie they have. That's the difference. And they have more than one line. They have more than one line because they will get scoring from other players like Rust. They will get scoring.
They do have more than one line. I agree, but Crosby and Malkin are not as good as Draisaitl and McDavid. So that's and Malkin's not even in the lineup. So there's I'll give you that they have more than one line, but I'll say the best players in Edmonton are better than the best players on.
But how is Crosby not better? Is he not as many points? Sure. Is he more effective in a game? Yes, he's more effective in a game.
Yeah, it's a all right. I'll give you a wash on them. Okay, but I'm not going to sit there and say Malkin's not even playing right now. And I think
they're the better.
Draisaitl's better than Malkin. No two ways about
it. They're the better point guard.
Forward depth, Pittsburgh. Defense, Pittsburgh. Goaltending, Pittsburgh.
We'll see.
Okay.
See, no, I want them to be. I want them to be. I want them. I do not want. It's so funny for me to be arguing for the Rangers. I hate the Rangers.
No, but you always
I'm
make
just
me
sitting
have
there.
to
I'm
be
sitting there, and
the Sidney
when
Crosby fan club too. But he's over a point a game. He's 53% on faceoffs. He's still one of the 5 best
he's
players
still
in this
great,
league.
and
Everybody ignores him now.
No, you're right, and I give you that he's playing with some of the worst players he's played with in his career too, and he's still doing great things. No question about it. I really don't want to rip on Crosby. I'm just sitting there and saying that if you're going to sit there and say that the Penguins are way better offensively than the Oilers, I don't agree with that.
Oh, I didn't say
no. They're not way better. They just have more lines. That's
I think they're better. I think they're better defensively, better in goal, and better at forward depth.
I think defensively they are even, like Russ said.
I think they're even defensively.
And I would say, I would even sometimes I would give the edge to the Oilers a little bit, but because you watch the Penguins, they just in pressure. Anyway, I watch them play in pressure situations. I watch the Penguins play all the time. People are saying that's so funny. Anyway, I don't have time for this.
Let's move on.
Let's move on. I still think it's possible. That's all I can say. Vancouver, yeah, they still have a chance. They can still catch. Montreal is also a train wreck. Like Montreal is they are really. Montreal is another team that is falling fast. I mean, really fast. And the only thing that's going to save them is the season ends at 56 games. Well. And that's the only thing that's saving the Penguins. So it's to me, the Rangers
doesn't matter. If you get in, you get in.
No, I agree. I'll give you that. But right now, to me, if you were to just list how good the teams are in this division, the Rangers are the second best team behind the Islanders. Now, whether or not they'll make the playoffs or not, I don't know.
But how many times that goes for a lot of sports? Hey, if they'd have just played better, if the season would have just been extended for 10 more games, they'd have made the playoffs.
No, but that's what makes it's still worthy sometimes to look, because we look at the whole season as to how good a team is. It is worthy sometimes to look at how good a team is right now. And how and that points towards how you'll predict in the future. Like to me,
it doesn't. It doesn't always. I think for the Rangers it does because they have a lot of young talent. But for a lot of teams, it doesn't. Sometimes the team does get it together at the end of the year and they do well at the end of the year, and we talk about it. And then the next year they come out of the gate slow again because they're not that good. But the Rangers are building towards something. They are
right. No, they are. They're building towards something really, really spectacular, and they're going to be They're going to be a crazy hard team to beat. They make this division. The Metro Division really, really hard.
And Zach Jones in another year or so is going to be added to their blue line.
Think about that. Think about the Rangers of the Metro, and then bringing Carolina back into the Metro. The Metro Division is insane. It's going to be for the Flyers to think that they have any chance of making the playoffs next year. They have to. I mean, they really, really have to.
Again, this is all on Fletcher to pull this miracle trade off, and it might not even be enough.
No, it's not in there. I don't think it's in there. And it's just this. And part of it is just the fact that this division. I mean, Washington is staying better longer than we thought they would. Yeah. Boston's staying better longer than we thought they would. I mean, Montreal's getting that Alicia Laviolette boost, which everybody thought they would have, except for me. I thought this might be the first time that the Laviolette boost wouldn't happen.
You were very it has happened. Capitals. You were.
But it has happened. They have gotten that boost.
Matter of fact, I think you picked the Capitals out of the playoffs, and Mike and I objected.
I did. I definitely did pick the Capitals out of the playoffs. No questions asked. I really thought that this would be the year.
The smile on Mike now over X's shoulder is priceless. It just is.
Well, it's easy to pick the Capitals in the playoffs, guys. You can be all happy that you did that. But the reality is, I think at some point the Capitals are going to follow up. I'm often a year early on this crap. This is what I've noticed about my life. I usually predict. I see these falls coming a year ahead of time, and I usually am wrong.
It's very easy to do the right thing.
All right. We'll see. You guys were all happy too. I'm again, Montreal Canadiens, one of my favorite teams. I didn't think they were going to make the playoffs.
You get the Habs into the playoffs, nobody's going to want to play them. I don't care how they end their season. Ooh. They have a roster that is built for the playoffs.
And remember, they don't have Carey Price.
Right.
I know.
You got Jake Allen. Jake Allen is a fine number 2, but as a number 1, he proved what in St. Louis? That he wasn't a number 1. That's what he proved.
I know, and that's a problem. To sit there and say that they're going to be this force,
Well, they will because they'll have Carey Price back.
Right. We assume. We don't know.
Oh, come on! Now they're not going to start showing us Carey Price skating because he's not coming back. We're not at that point.
In Montreal, you see everybody skating. You know that. All right, so we saw Victor Mete skate for 2 hours on trade deadline day. Anything's possible.
That was just a reflection of how boring trade deadline day was.
It was actually a really good trade deadline day, I thought. Maybe boring for Montreal people. All All right, so yeah, the Canadiens just lost to Ottawa 4. I know it's like it's crazy.
Actually, he was supposed to play in that game. Did he play in that game?
Don't know.
Let's see, I'm looking.
I guess he did play. I haven't seen.
Yeah, he did. He played in that game.
Okay, so he is playing.
That's
so
his
he's
first
back.
game back, and he played. Like
okay,
crap.
so he's back. Okay, but is he going to do Carey Price? Like we have seen, we have not. There's a Carey Price that puts him in the playoffs, and there's a Carey Price that doesn't. So like, let's remember at this point in his career, Price has different.
Remember, folks, the Ottawa Senators played the Montreal Canadiens and the Toronto Maple Leafs like it's Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final.
I'm not worried about the Canadiens. They actually are going to be a good playoff team.
I hope they make the playoffs, but yes, I agree.
You hope they make the playoffs? Oh my God,
Jesus!
You guys are crazy. All right. You just don't get it. Anyway, let's.
Yeah, we don't get it. You're right.
No, you don't. I mean, you guys think that it's just so like this can never happen. I think they will.
We didn't say it could never happen. We just said they are going to make the playoffs. That's it.
Okay. All right. That's your opinion. I agree.
My favorite 2 words, Eck. It's over.
I know you love saying it's over, and there are so many times when you've said it's over that it hasn't been, Mike. That like many times. You want me to just? You're right. Actually, in the credits today, in the chat room comments today for YouTube, give me the times that Matt said it's over when Mike said it's over and it hasn't been over. Come on.
Anyway, here's my big thing. For Montreal to fall out of the playoffs, who's the team that's making the playoffs to take their spot?
Well, I think Vancouver has the best shot, but Calgary should have swept them, and they Calgary blew an opportunity. They outplayed them all up every which way but Friday and won one game and should have just swept.
The only two options here to catch Montreal are Vancouver, who, in spite of winning yesterday, are ravaged by COVID, and more than likely, after the initial rush of adrenaline, they'll recede back. And the Calgary Flames, who are ravaged by mediocrity and incompetence.
Well, actually, you know what the difference is? Those 2 teams, Montreal's a little better on the road than they are at home. The other 2 teams that you mentioned, Calgary and Vancouver, are bad road teams, and that will do them in.
Vancouver is 10 points behind, but with 4 games at hand.
But they are a bad road team, Eck.
I know they're a bad road team, and they have been a bad road team. Although right now, you might want to get a heck out of Vancouver. They might feel happy to be out of the city. All right, let's move on, okay, to another fun debate while we're here. And that is my blog today, which I'm going to – you guys remember the Hockey Digest, right? And I actually just ordered a bunch of old Hockey Digests from eBay because I was just kind of feeling sentimental.
See, there you go. You're filling your house.
I know, right?
As your wife is listening to this, you're part of the problem, like you said.
Oh, I know. As I sit here, I'm absolutely part of the problem. No, I actually will not say I'm a part of the problem. I will flat out say I am the problem. Like, there's no 2 ways about that. I am not part of the problem. I am the issue.
I just burned a whole bunch of Hockey Digest in my fire pit.
No, you didn't.
Sure, I did. I did.
You did not, really?
I did.
Well, you should have asked me. I would have paid for them.
They were like all rotted and stuff like that.
Well, they're rot. Well, I'm going to want rotted Hockey Digest. I ordered a bunch of them that I liked. And this was my favorite magazine growing up as a kid. I did. I loved this. I loved it. I mean, I was a Hockey News second. Hockey News was second. Hockey News was great because it was weekly, but Hockey Digest was awesome. And they used to have a thing it was once a month, and they had this thing that they would do. Who was better? I mean, who's better? And that's one of my favorite parts of this. And we've talked about it before, but I ordered a bunch of them.
Like, say Austin Matthews was better than McDavid. Yes.
Austin Matthews will be eventually the best American hockey player to ever live. I'll tell you that right now. He will pass Patrick Kane. I agree with you. Payne is the guy right now, but I think
is it possible? Sure. It's going to take a while, though.
It'll take a while, but I think he's got the potential to do that for sure.
But doing that doesn't mean he's going to be better than Connor McDavid.
Correct.
No, he's already better than Connor McDavid. I mean, he's already at this point. Let's move on from that. Let's move on from that.
Okay.
Let's take aside from that. Okay, so let's go back to this. I ordered the Hockey News. Like, who's better, Bossy or Curry? Who's better, Langway or Robinson? There's some great great old things, like that. And those are debates.
Rod Langway, never on his best day was Larry Robinson. He was terrific.
Yes. These are great
never
debates
on his best day.
When why I ordered these Hockey Digests is I wanted to have these. I wanted to bring up the Hockey Digest once in a while and talk about like an old episode, an old issue about that. I think it'll be fun. And we'll do that. We'll have that debate because Bossy or Curry is a great debate. Bossy or Curry is a great one. There's a lot of great ones out there. So my one for today that I'm going to start with on Monday is this. And on Mondays we're going to do this matchup thing. And today I'm going flat out with the top to the top. We're going who's better, the Colorado Avalanche or the Tampa Bay Lightning? And this to me is a really
that's good.
It's a tough one, right? It's a very, very tough one because and looking at the stats, Colorado's had a better season, no question about it.
I don't think it's a tough one.
Okay, let me give you a couple quick stats and then we'll discuss. Okay, because I thought some of these stats were pretty interesting, so I'm going to bring them up right here. But yeah, it really isn't a tough one for me, Mike, either, and I think we'll probably agree on this one. But let's move on. So Colorado, the intangibles you still have to say that Tampa, having won a Stanley Cup and gone through all they've gone through over the last several years, has way more experience and a way better history as far in the playoffs to actually go further. I think that the intangibles go to Tampa right off the bat. Overall team, is really is a tough one. So let's go through the regular season. Colorado's been better.
Wait, I mean, I would like to break it down defensively and offensively.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do that. We're gonna do that in a second. Okay. I'm just gonna go regular season. Colorado's been better, but maybe in a better division. Although that's another interesting debate: the Central versus the West. I don't know. Like when I think about the Central versus the West,
the one thing is we really don't know. Like it's hard to gauge what division is better because they don't play against
three really bad teams in them.
And you can't really, and I'll use your argument against you in this instance.
Yes,
can't really base anything on the regular season, especially when it comes to Tampa Bay, because Tampa Bay knows that this regular season is meaningless. All they need to do is get in the playoffs, and that when they'll have Kucherov and Stamkos both back together.
Right.
I mean, all they have to do is finish in the top 4 in that division. It doesn't matter if they win it, if they finish in second. It doesn't matter.
The confidence that Tampa has is unmistakable, Mike. You're right. The confidence they have going in the playoffs, that they know the playoffs, that they can win in the playoffs, is just, and it might. I mean, and the fear of overconfidence, I think, is something that doesn't exist very much with them since what happened with Columbus. They've learned this stuff, so they're not going to be an overconfident team. Although I will say that I do get a sense that they don't quite have the respect for the Panthers that they need to have yet, and for the Hurricanes at times they don't either. But so far they've managed to play pretty well against both those teams.
They may not respect them because they're two flawed teams.
Well, they are flawed teams for sure, but they are teams that also can be dangerous for them.
Yeah, sure.
The way those teams play, they both have the qualities that Columbus had.
I don't think they're taking them lightly, but what I think they are doing is they recognize that they're flawed teams. I mean, Carolina has average at best goaltending, and Florida, with the loss of Ekblad, has below average not team defense, but their blue line.
Right.
So those are fatal flaws that Tampa at their utmost can take advantage of.
I do agree with all that.
Yeah.
But let's go to forwards and defense for a second. The Avalanche forward group versus the Tampa forward group, and now we're going to put Kucherov back in this thing. And obviously, you have to, but that isn't, it is an issue of how, will he just be able to turn it on completely, when he comes back after missing an entire year of hockey.
I think it's a draw only because Colorado wins more faceoffs. Tampa is certainly a little more dynamic, but ultimately it's a draw.
I think it's a draw, but I think for different reasons. Colorado's top line is incredible. Even with Kucherov and Stamkos, I think their number one line with Rantanen and McKinnon may be better than Tampa, but Tampa's depth. Fair. I mean, their third line with Goudreau and Gord and Coleman. I don't think Colorado can match up to that. I mean,
I agree with that too.
We heard from Kevin Lee during the trade deadline podcast that Colorado was not happy with Nazem Kadri as their second line center. They went out and got Soderberg to get some more depth up the middle. They wouldn't go out and get Soderberg if they weren't happy with their depth. So I think Tampa's forwards are a little better depth wise, but I think the prime guys for Colorado are better.
Yeah, I agree with that. And defensively, I give this. Here I go the opposite way a little bit. I think Colorado's defense is better than Tampa's defense, and they're both obviously you've got Hedman and Makar at the top, and that I'll give that a wash. I mean, those are two great players. Maybe Makar's a little bit better. I mean, Makar to me is about as good as they get in the NHL, and actually when you bring up Brian Leetch earlier. that's who Makar is to me. Like when I watch Makar play, like I was trying to think of who he reminded me of, and the other day someone made that comparison. And I'm
There's
like,
some elements.
Yeah, give him a couple more years, but
I'll tell you where I think Tampa falls short. There's nobody on Tampa that's close to Sam Girard. What he does offensively, what he does. Go look at what he does, and especially when certain guys were out, Sam Girard is spectacular.
I'm giving Tampa a little bit of an edge.
I wouldn't.
Well, let me finish. The fact that Colorado's defense has been devastated this year by injuries. Taves was out for a while. Eric Johnson's, I think, still out. Where I think Tampa has the advantage is now your top four is McDonough, Hedman, Sergachev, and David Savard. I in terms of two-way, I think they're much better. I think Girard is really good. I love Makar. I think he's fantastic. Devin Taves is, I think, more of an offensive defenseman than a sort of stay-at-home guy. I like Graves, but I just think that the Tampa defense is more complete.
I think they're more names, Mike. Graves is a great shot blocker. I think you can make the argument that, yes, Tampa plays a better brand of defense, but they're also much slower. Their blue line's not even close to as fast as
and goals against Colorado is third this year in goals against in the NHL. Tampa's eighth.
But also Colorado, they had moments where they didn't have a backup goalie for a long time.
Right, and Grubauer has.
Vasilevsky's the better goalie. Dubnyk helps their situation, but Vasilevsky's going to win. Like, we don't even have to.
That is probably the biggest difference between these teams. Is at the end of the day, Vasilevsky is Vasilevsky. And no one can touch that. Grubauer has been way better and really proved doubters like me, wrong that he could be a number one goalie. But there's but we still have to see him do it in the playoffs, and we still haven't. And until we do,
if you believe in this, in the expected shot category, Sam Girard is leading the league. The league.
That's pretty
because
impressive.
when he's out there, stuff happens offensively. It does.
That's pretty impressive. So we're all in agreement with Vasilevsky here in the goaltending, right?
Yes.
Like that's pretty much that's and now.
But I think the part that doesn't show up on paper, Eck, is like Mike said. If I'm double shifting the top line on Colorado, and I'm using my top four a lot on Colorado and putting Graves out there when I just need, shot blocking and some, minutes to spare. Right. Tampa can't keep that pace up. That would be their problem.
Colorado or Tampa can't keep that pace.
Tampa cannot keep the pace of Colorado.
If those players can play,
even Kucherov in his best day is not the fastest skater in the world, and Stamkos is slower than he used to be.
Yeah, for sure. No, the Colorado Avalanche speed is ridiculous. McKinnon is the best player on either team.
So I do think that's like the equalizer. I think it's a coin flip, honestly.
Do we all agree now? Some people were actually getting the coaching. They're both really solid. I don't really. It's hard to.
I think it's hard to say that Bednar is better because Cooper's gotten further. But Bednar, if you think about that first year and how awful that team was, and how good they've been since then, he's a damn good coach. He just doesn't get credit for it.
And Cooper has, the press. Like Cooper has the PR and the press, and he's just. It's hard to everybody loves John Cooper, which you should.
He's charismatic and
you will, but it's so that's why it's hard for me to sit there and say that. But you're right. It's hard to just give it to Cooper here because, with the exception of the fact that he's actually won it, it's the only real thing you can sit there and say. But the reality is Bednar has taken that team from really not much to this powerful spot. Now, the other question I had, and there were people who debated this with me in my blog already today, have said things like, okay, these aren't the two best teams in the league. They're putting Vegas. Vegas is ahead of Colorado right now. The Islanders are there. You have different teams like the Islanders, the Capitals. I just don't have any. I just cannot see picking any team to beat any of these teams in a playoff series right now. I think Colorado or Tampa, I just can't see either of them losing a playoff series to anybody.
Well, I mean, they can. I mean, look, Vegas could upset anybody. I mean, Vegas.
No, Vegas is
Vegas plays. They have defensive forwards like Mark Stone that are just tremendous. They have guys who can bum rush the net in the playoffs, especially with Pacioretty and Stone, which are great. If Fleury's on his game, he could be as good as anybody for a few playoff rounds.
I mean,
for sure.
I think they're capable.
You can't underestimate the fact that Colorado has to go through Vegas to get to the conference, to get to the.
No, that's massive.
I mean, that's.
And they'll probably have to play Minnesota, who's played them really hard. So that's the other, and so it's going to be. I'm not going to say Minnesota is going to beat them, but Minnesota has played them as well as anybody. Minnesota, the advantage Minnesota has is that they have played really well against Vegas and Colorado. Those two teams have been teams that they've really.
Even Parisi's having a pretty good year for them.
So Minnesota's sort of a little bit of a wild card too.
That road can take a bite out of a team. I mean,
yes.
So they go through Minnesota, say, and they go through Vegas, and they get through them, and then they have to play the Islanders in the semifinal.
Who knows? Yeah, where they're going to play, where they're going to fall out there.
Right. I mean, that all depends.
I think the rich got richer with Tampa, right? But I don't know if Tampa could take another year of a beating. It's so hard to repeat in this league, and it's simply because of the beating that the players take.
Right.
Yeah.
Savard's a really good player, so that's a hell of an ad, but it's still they have so many other players with a lot of mileage. Like McDonough will continually get banged up as the playoffs go on because of the way he plays, and it's hard. I can't pick them to win consecutive because we haven't seen it happen. I mean, it's almost impossible.
No, I agree. We haven't seen it happen, so it is impossible. I mean, and the way this plays out as far as who would play who.
Detroit's the last one.
No,
who would play who here is
Pittsburgh,
really
sorry. Yeah, Pittsburgh. Sorry.
As we sit there and try to figure out who would play who, I've done a little research on that too. Like just as far as my projected things go, and I'm trying to bring it up right now, but it works out to Colorado with 83 points, Washington with 81 points. Is finishing in first in that division, and then Tampa with 80 points and Toronto with 78 points. So it would be like basically if all four of those teams would win, Colorado would end up playing Toronto in the first round. Basically, is how this plays out.
Great. Whether or not, and when Nazem Kadri gets suspended for 5 games, then the Leafs will have an advantage.
Yeah, no, anyway, it could go any which way, obviously, but that's just how it plays out now. So. I mean, I think that it's going to be tight, but yeah, who plays who in the second round? It is interesting that we can't say they're going to go to the Stanley Cup final.
And here's something else the math can't tell us, Zach. Whoever comes out of the North is going to have to play. If they make it to the Stanley Cup, they're going to be playing road games as their home games for the Stanley Cup, and that is not easy. I mean, yes. Yeah. Detroit beat the Rangers in 1950 in Toronto, but even that wasn't easy. It was an overtime win in the last game. So just trying to win a Stanley Cup by playing on the road and not playing the home games is going to be difficult for any of those teams in the North.
Well, not necessarily, Russ. If they do play, if Toronto plays in Buffalo, that's the home away from home.
Yeah, but it's still not their home, Mike. It's still at the end of the day, it's not.
But see, the thing is, and this is based on the report that Elliot Friedman made on Saturday. The way things are going in Canada right now, it's a distinct possibility that they will bubble in the U.S. for the first 2 rounds because COVID is blowing up there. And if that's the case, then we don't know where that bubble would be. It could be Buffalo, it could be Detroit, it could be a number of other different places.
It could be anywhere.
And that will take a toll on the teams because
it's got to be a non-playoff American city because
where it could be, and they're making a big push for that is Philadelphia.
It could be Philadelphia, but
because I was talking to Comcast people, they actually part of their thinking when they put the new stuff in the arena and all this stuff is they wanted, if there was a bubble situation, they wanted to draw that.
Yeah, now, what is players are different now than they were in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Those teams could shut everything out, be away from their families, have no problem. They almost wanted that, right? To gel as a team. Now all of these teams want to be near their families and have that. And if they're taken away from their families again, it is going to hurt certain teams.
Back then it was way easier to do a lot of cocaine on the road.
The teams don't want it. The teams don't want it.
Yeah, no, the teams don't want it for sure. They don't want it for sure. There's no question about that. But there really might not be a choice. And unfortunately, the Canadian situation is so crazy right now. Now, it could. I've heard the first round could. The only thing that could avoid this perhaps is the fact that it looks like an Eastern team will play an Eastern team in the first round, a Western team will play a Western team in the first round in Canada. So if you have Montreal,
it's cross province. But
they basically have shut down what Quebec has shut down.
They've shut down all the provinces.
All the provinces.
Yeah, so no matter what, if that's the case, then and this is only 3 weeks away. So we're looking at a situation that's really coming up.
The schedule was expanded a little bit, so it's May 18th.
Okay, so it's a month.
But one note that in Ontario they starting tomorrow, they're going to be pumping out vaccine to everybody 40 and over. So maybe that curbs the blow up of COVID in Ontario. And
I spoke to somebody about that, Mike. And so while it is open to those people, those people are still going to have to jump through a lot of hoops to get the shots. So it's not like they're going to be able to line up instantly tomorrow and start getting shots. It's still going to be like a month process.
And on top of that, they're getting their second shot in 4 months.
That's the big thing. Yeah, talking to my Canadian friends up there, they're all saying, I could probably get a shot, but I'm not going to be able to get my second shot for 4 or 5 months. Yeah, so that's like, and that's, so you're talking about the beginning of next NHL season. So if they're doing the double shot thing,
Yeah, the rollout in Canada has been awful. Like Esmir says, he's shocked how bad they are. Everybody in Canada is admitting the rollout has been awful.
Yeah, America's just screwed them. Anyway, all right, let's move on. So, no, I'm not going to take that opinion. We're not going to talk about that. Like, we're not going to debate that.
X acting like he's all persecuted on this show. I don't understand.
What? Acting?
No, all right. You're acting like you're persecuted.
I am persecuted. That's what I'm saying. I'm not acting like I'm persecuted, man. Anybody who watches this show knows I'm persecuted.
Start being right a little more often.
Oh, wow. Laying it down. Microphone drop for Mike here.
Of course, now we can't hear him.
Here we go. There.
We lost Mike.
Mike's gone now. Mike is left.
Disconnected. What's going on here?
I don't know. It's bedlam. All right. I'll give it to you. Hold on one second. Not the time out.
It was a joke, for crying out loud.
Oh, I know that. Gosh, I can't. If I took anything seriously, I would be in a mental institution. All right, here we go. By the way, the Penguins are third in the league in scoring. Yep. So your statement that their offense isn't as good as Edmonton's is funny. It is funny. I appreciate that. I'm trying to be funny. But yeah, no, you're right. I mean, listen, the Penguins can score goals. If they couldn't score goals, they would not have a prayer. But because they really cannot, they are definitely, no question about it, really challenged defensively. So we'll see. I mean, they could still, the odds are that I'm going to be wrong. I'm not even going to be wrong. I'm simply saying that they have a chance. You guys are saying there's no chance at all.
You just want to say that on this most minuscule of chances, in case it happens, so you could be like, see, I called it, and it would be like a
how many more games do the Rangers have to win and the Penguins have to lose, Russ?
You're basically calling for like 2 teams to have a monumental collapse, and so like whatever, call whatever you want. It's meaningless.
I'm not calling for them.
You are. I'm
saying it's possible.
You've done everything but put a pox on the Penguins for the last month.
Well, the Penguins should be happy because if I put a pox on a team, that team usually wins the Stanley Cup. So Penguin fans, enjoy it. You're all good. But I did not put a pox on them at all.
If people go back and watch this show, you could, as far back as 3 weeks ago, you were talking about their demise.
I have because it's something in their game. There's something in their game.
They're 6-3-1 while they're blowing up in your eyes in the wrong way.
If the Rangers went 10-2,
right,
they would have 72 points.
Right.
Pittsburgh would have to go 6-4-1.
That's very possible. That's not that crazy.
But the 10-2 is not possible.
Right.
No, it is. They are the best team in their. There is who's way better. Who's way better than the Rangers in their division? They're only playing divisional teams.
They're having
way better than the Rangers, Russ.
A tropical heat wave. I mean,
so you're saying now the Rangers are better than the Capitals?
Right now they are, yeah.
Right now.
I'm not saying they're going to stay that way, but right now they're playing better than the Capitals for sure.
I mean, right now it doesn't look like rain. It could rain in 20 minutes.
Looks like
so
rain
sure,
here.
Right now, okay.
Like rain here, Russ. Anyway, there's always a cloud that hangs over me. All right, let's move on. That's all the time we have for today. If you want to support this show and Hope, which these guys don't seem to want to support at all, if you want to support Hope, go to patreon.com/hockey. Patreon.com/hockey. Donate $5 and say, I believe in hope. Because there's always hope.
Oh, and I did put out my
it's over.
I did put out my first list for the 2021 NHL draft. If you want to go to sportsology.com or Twitter, you can
please do that. Yes, absolutely.
And I retweeted it.
Well, I'll retweet it too, Russ. Let me get out there and do that. And then we'll also can we talk about it on the show?
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk about it tomorrow. Let's do it tomorrow. Let's make that the show. All right, that's the show tomorrow. There you go. There you go. Make that the show tomorrow. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.